Hi, I am Micha Frazer-Carroll and I am the author of Mad World, The Politics of Mental Health. I'm really excited that you're going to be reading this book in your book group, and I'll give you a bit of background about myself. So I'm a writer and journalist by training. I've worked at various publications like Gowdam, The Guardian and HuffPost. I also founded a mental health magazine when I was at university, which was called Blueprint, and kind of looked at the political dimensions of mental health. But I also have a background in student activism. So I was the Welfare and Rights Officer at Cambridge University Students' Union for a year, where I was looking a lot at the intersection between race and mental health. I'll maybe tell you a bit about kind of the inspiration behind this book and why I wanted to write it. So I felt when I started writing that there really just wasn't much out there, definitely in like the mainstream publishing space, that took a radical political approach to mental health. So not only kind of looking at personal stories and memoirs and kind of this speak out, open up, awareness raising approach to mental health, but something that really looked at how marginalization, how capitalism interacts with our mental health. And so that was one aim of the book, is to kind of look at the social and political dimensions of how we experience distress or madness or mental illness, as I describe it in the book. But also another kind of key part of the book was to look at how does capitalism shape how we construct what we even think of as mental health. So yeah, a lot of this book kind of approaches mental health as a social construct and thinks about actually how, if we lived in a different world, how would the ways that we categorize or pathologize distress, madness, mental illness, how would that look different? And that kind of entailed looking at two historical movements specifically. One which was called the anti-psychiatry movement, which, as the name says, tried to challenge traditional psychiatry. And then another one called the psychiatric survivors movement, which was made up of kind of patients, or as they called themselves, survivors of the mental health system. And they did a lot of kind of organising and reframing of how we think about mental health. So I'm drawing on these struggles, but then I'm also drawing on the disability justice movement, on anti-racist movements, abolitionist movements, and I also look a bit at the gay rights movement as well and how that interacted with anti-psychiatry. So lots in there, considering that it's a short book. But I thought I'd do a bit of a reading just to kind of give you a flavour of what the book is going to look at. And so I'm just going to read a short extract from the introduction. Okay. Madness and mental distress is an overwhelmingly isolating endeavour under our current conditions. It can cut us off from our communities, make us feel trapped, take over our lives, and see us further secluded within the system, both physically and metaphorically. It can pile on shame, disgust, and trauma, turning our days into a struggle to simply stay alive. How, then, do we take such alienating and debilitating experiences and turn them outwards, to politicize them? This is the central concern that this book attempts to tackle. In recent decades, we have seen an explosion of liberal mental health awareness campaigns, demanding that we speak out and break the stigma around mental health. A slew of memoirs and confessional mental health writing has also followed, dissecting the personal dimensions of distress and providing many of us with narratives that we can relate to. Others have begun to interrogate the link between oppression and mental health, for example, the relationship between race, gender, and distress. Most of these discussions, however, are yet to make political, historical, and economic analyses that are truly radical and grasp problems at the root. While currents in the mental health conversations may have shifted and swirled about on the surface, the deep, murky water beneath largely remains the same. We are yet to sufficiently grapple with questions like, how does my experience link to yours? What are the shared structures and material conditions that dictate how we all understand and experience what we call madness and mental illness? What even is madness or mental illness? And should we take these constructs at face value? This book mobilises anti-capitalist, mad, disability justice and anti-racist thinking in particular to carve out a radical and political approach to mental health. It names the capitalist economic system, specifically, as a significant producer of suffering in contemporary life. Capitalism, a system characterised by private ownership, wage labour, competition and the pursuit of profit, harms each and every one of us. It separates us, workers, from our work, forces us to choose between inhumane working conditions or death, pushes people into dangerous living conditions and houselessness, destroys our environment, sanctions and normalises all kinds of death, forces the unemployed into murderous benefit systems and social institutions, and allows a limited few to accumulate more wealth than they could ever need. Under these conditions, life is not only unfulfilling for many, but unlivable. So that's the extract. I hope it gives you a bit of a flavour of what the book's going to be like. And yeah, thank you so much for reading. I think if you gain anything from this book, I would love if you did pass it on, recommend it to other people. I hope that it starts conversations and very much see it as a jumping off point for kind of further discussion, organising and other writers to kind of take forward and build on what I've set out here. But yeah, I also love feedback on the book. So if you do want to drop me a line, if you just Google me, Micha Frazer-Carroll, my website will come up and probably my Twitter and Instagram as well. So yeah, if you do have thoughts on the book or it connects with you in any way, I absolutely love hearing from people. So yeah, I hope you enjoy and thank you for reading.